Good day, familia. This is your host, Rafael Rey Collazo, and you're watching and listening to The Collazo Show. The Collazo Show provides commentary analysis at the intersection of leadership, politics, y cultura. Thank you so much for joining The Collazo Show and The Collazo Show podcast. You can catch premiere episodes. So if you want to be the first one in the neighborhood that watches The Collazo Show, you have to subscribe to me on my Substack page. Please subscribe to The Collazo Show on Substack. You can also follow the show, and you can still rock with us on YouTube at the Collazo Show, but you're not going to see it first because only my Substack fam gets to see the show first. So you got to subscribe to me on Substack, and there's other surprises and other content that you can only get on our Substack page. So please subscribe to us on Substack, but YouTube's cool too at the Collazo Show. And the Collazo Show podcast, the audio version of the show, you can listen to literally anywhere where you get a podcast. As I promised, I'm starting in a series of interviews and episodes of the Collazo Show to meet the candidates who are going to be the new generation of leaders that you're going to be seeing on the political stage throughout this year and certainly during the 2026 general election cycle, and who we hope and we expect many of which of these candidates that you're meeting on these wonderful interviews we're going to have for you here on the Collazo Show will be members of Congress or in other wonderful positions serving our country in the coming days and years. So this is the first in the series, and it was very appropriate that for the first of these wonderful sessions and introductions to my Collazo Show community that we're doing of candidates is someone that not just is a Pennsylvania like myself, I'm a born and raised North Philly guy, but someone that we've collaborated with and friends with for a minute, as they say. And really proud of this woman throwing her hat in the ring to run, to be on the ballot now, to be in the Democratic primary for Pennsylvania Congressional District 7. You're going to learn more about where that is and how you can plug into it and how you can support her candidacy, her historic candidacy in Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, familia, great friend to the show. And again, the Democratic candidate for Pennsylvania Congressional District 7, Carol Obando-Derstine. Carol, welcome.
Hello, Collazo family. So great to be here talking to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, the only concerns I ever have with Carol coming on the show, because you've come on my podcast over the years, different iterations of it, is making sure I don't mess up your last name. So I'm just making sure Derstine. So my mouth, those names doesn't work the best.
Now people call me Carol O.
Carol O. That's
más fácil.
Carol G, Carol O, I think it all flows. Welcome to the show, Carol. So
thank you.
Why don't we start? We're going to learn in a second, familia, about not only, what is this Pennsylvania Congressional District 7? Why is it so important? What world is that in? How can I help this woman? She's fantastic. You're going to learn all about that. And I put down in the chat in the crawl, carolfrompa.com, so you can find out more about her candidacy, donate to her candidacy, and find ways to support. She's got an important election coming up in about a month. And so, but let's start from the beginning, Carol, because I'm sure people are curious. When you win, you'll be the first Hispanic member of the Pennsylvania Congressional Delegation. So you'd be the first CHC member, Congressional Hispanic Caucus member from PA, and many other firsts and pioneering milestones. But why don't we start from the beginning, Carol? Because I'm sure people are curious about your personal background. Where did this journey, Carol Obando-Derstine, begin for you?
It began in Colombia. I came here at the age of 3 because my parents had lived through a violent civil war and they sacrificed everything for a shot at the American dream. I grew up in a working class home. Both my parents were in unions. I even lived on a floor with one bathroom and about a dozen relatives because that's what starting looked like. That's what survival looked like. And that's what it took to achieve the American dream. I lived through a lot of challenges, empty wallets, sacrifices, and language barriers on top of that. I learned English by watching Sesame Street. I worked 3 jobs in high school just to save up for college. But one thing that I never forgot is giving back, because that's my love language. It's the way that I show my patriotism. It's the way that I pay it forward for all the ways in which this country invested in me. So I have spent my whole career helping others get ahead because I have a deep commitment to service above self.
So Carol, so people that don't know, and I encourage people again, go to carolforpa.com and learn more about Carol's personal biography. And well, in this brief time, we're not going to have full justice to it, but Carol's got a very harrowing story, as you just heard the beginnings of as an immigrant to this country. And I think about Carol when you talk about all the fam being in one house, and that in our modern politics is demonized, right? Like they've used, that stereotype. Oh, there's all these strange people in this house next door, and all the nonsense about eating the dogs and cats in Ohio and all these tropes. But, there's something so beautiful about families sticking together. And some of the best memories I have as a kid, I remember one summer, both my parents, like your family, were in labor unions. And the same summer, the first summer that we were sort of in the dream house, the semi-detached house that wasn't like right outside the hood, not in the middle of the hood. Both my parents' unions went on strike.
Oh.
So we went from being like living large to pelao, like dirt poor, like real broke, like, as my mother would say, suffering in luxury. And it got to the point where we all had to sleep in the same room because we could only afford the air conditioning in one room.
Yeah.
And, but sleeping on the floor with my brothers are some of the best memories I had as a kid growing up, that moment. So that what others would perceive as like, really traumatic and off-putting is actually, obviously it was a little convenient, but it's a very beautiful thing how family sticks together, support each other. Obviously that's big part of our immigrant families struggles and stories. And you have an incredible personal story. So fast forwarding, Carol, you became a celebrated community activist in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. You worked for Senator Bob Casey. Our former senator is a real good guy, and I know a supporter of yours.
Yes.
And then you became a utilities energy executive, and so you were doing great. You had a wonderful job. You had a great career. You had gone back to school to become an engineer, basically, in the work that you're doing as a Latina in technology and energy. But then you decided to, of all things, get in this crazy game called politics. So what drew you, Carol, with all those collective experiences and having made it already, to throw your hat in the ring to run for the Democratic nomination for the 7th Congressional District of Pennsylvania?
I had always believed in service above self. That is my motto. I know that's the official motto of Rotary, and I am a Rotarian. But even before I was a Rotarian, I've always believed that. And I had been, like you mentioned, in the public sector when I worked for Senator Casey, where I worked in the district here that I'm running in. I connected people to the services they needed. I filled in for the senator. I gave him input for legislation. So I had insight into what this entailed. But you're right. Fast forward many years after that, after I left his office and I worked at the local public utility. I started off helping seniors, low-income families, and small businesses reduce their energy bills. I was giving out grants to worthy nonprofits, doing a lot of important work in the community. And in my 40s, as a full-time worker and mom of 2, I went back to school for a STEM degree in energy systems engineering from Lehigh. What prompted me to do this is actually the former Congresswoman Susan Wild came knocking on my door and said, "Carol, I'm not going to try to retake the seat, but I think you would be phenomenal for this. If you get in, I want you to get in, and if you do, I'm going to back you. I'm going to endorse you on day one." So I was at that fork in the road, right? Continue to advance in my career and have a very comfortable life, because frankly, that's what it was. Or really step up for my community, because I had been just horrified at what I was seeing this president, this administration demonize immigrants, especially Latinos, make it feel like it's a crime to be Latino in America. That's not right. I was also very angry that I was watching working families struggling to get by, choosing between heating and eating, while this Congressman, Ryan McKenzie, voted to make their life worse. So I took I took the hard path. I took the uncertain path because we are worth it. Our community is worth it. We need folks who are going to put them above politics. And that's why I did it.
We
I
hear a
got in.
lot. We hear a lot in national politics about, every 2 years. I tell people being a Pennsylvania Latino I become a lot better looking and popular and thinner, like for 2-3 months every 2 years, because all of a sudden people want to know about Pennsylvania. And people, even even Pennsylvania politics, it starts there. But in national politics, people see the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, which is the city of Allentown, the city of Bethlehem, and Carol can share some more on that, as sort of the bellwether for our politics. It's one of the true last swing community regions in our country. Now, on top of that, it's become a very Latino part of our country. Which sort of is tied into that. But outside of the data and the political articles you might see 6 weeks for an election every couple of years in the New York Times or the Washington Post, tell us about the Lehigh Valley, Carol, and what folks care about, what you're hearing in the street, and what makes this congressional district for you so special.
I love this district so much. I came here over 22 years ago because my husband ended up getting a job here after he finished Penn State. We met at Penn State. I had another master's at the time. I studied community psychology and social change. So he was an electrical engineer. He got a job in Bethlehem. I ended up getting married, and then we lived in the Lehigh Valley and thought, we'll give it a chance. If we don't like it, we can go anywhere else. And I can't imagine myself ever living somewhere else. It is a beautiful, beautiful district. It has a lot of ways in which we can just make the most of our life, where we can, it's a beautiful place to raise your kids and to work, play, go to school, recreate, etc. It is a community, like you mentioned, that has a growing Latino community. A percentage of Latinos, it's approaching 20%. 20%. It has the largest percentage of Latinos of any swing district in Pennsylvania. So we are talking about 77-ish thousand Puerto Ricans alone. Not mentioning other types of Latinos. It's a community that cares about our heritage. We have very significant companies that left a major imprint, like Bethlehem Steel in Bethlehem, that were the ones that built the skyscrapers, built the Empire State Building, and so on. So we
by the way, not to cut you, but by the way, that's those iconic businesses and industries are the reason Latinos first immigrated and migrated to that.
That's right.
I had family that were connected to me from 70, 80 years ago that worked at Bethlehem Steel in the 50s. So to speak about that history of the Latino community in your area.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And it's growing. The Latino population is growing, and we are hard workers. We came here to contribute, and we are contributing. But the reality is that if you look at reports from the annual report that the United Way has, it's called the ALICE report. It's an acronym. It stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. These are essentially the working poor. They produce an annual report. I'm still using the figures from last year because we don't have the newest report yet. But the community, according to the United Way, 41% of our community, of our district, are struggling to pay for the essentials like housing, healthcare, groceries, utilities, and childcare. That's the equivalent of 124,000 households. But once you start looking at the numbers more closely and looking at the data per county, and most of Latinos are in Lehigh County because we have a majority Latino city in Allentown. It's anywhere between 52 to 54% Latino. And it's in Lehigh County. So if you look at the Lehigh County numbers, the Latinos and African Americans who are struggling to make ends meet are 62% of families, not the 41% of the overall. So we're talking about significant needs in our Latino and African American community here in the districts. So these are some of the things that I talk about very, very much, very vocal about these matters, because we need someone who's going to tackle these issues of the cost of living, the fact that people can't pay for the bare essentials, housing, healthcare, groceries, utilities, and childcare. And family care, I would say. We need a fighter. We need someone that goes to Congress and works on this, because we deserve it. We need a fighter.
I encourage people. I encourage people again to follow. Not only visit Carol for PA's website, but follow Carol O, as they say in the street. Carol Obando on social media, and it's been really heartwarming to see your how people have embraced your candidacy. You've engaged. Obviously, the Latino piece is important, but particularly women. You're the only woman in this race. And a very well recognized community leader, well beyond the Hispanic community. Susan Wild wouldn't have just called you if she didn't know that you had reach and your leadership spread throughout the district. But the interactions you've had with real people, whether it's at an King's rally or with you were telling me the other day that you have a strong Cameroonian community that's working with you, and your message resonates. So tell us, beyond the challenges, tell us about the conversations you've had with these very diverse communities that have whether it's Latinos or immigrants in the inner city, suburban moms, or just others who have gravitated to your campaign because they know they believe in your vision around tech policy and energy policy and everything in between. Labor is a big part of your coalition as well. So tell us about the conversations you're having. How are people feeling this stuff? Because I know people are struggling. It's clear. Would love to hear how people are thinking about their struggles and these issues day to day in the Lehigh Valley.
Folks want to see a fighter. Folks want to see someone that, first off, can relate to them and have lived through those same struggles that they're going through. And that's my background. Like I said, I understand the struggles that working families face because I've lived them when I came here as a child. And just throughout the years, I, as a working mom, know what it was like to pay more for childcare than my mortgage. I understand all of the challenges. I know what it's like to sit around the kitchen table and try to figure out how all this was going to add up. So folks can see themselves in me and know that I'm fighting for them, but they also know that the experience I have in the nonprofit, public, and private sectors really give me a depth and breadth of experience that none of the other candidates have. When I started off my career, it was as a child therapist. So I have a background in mental health. Then I came to the Lehigh Valley over 22 years ago, and I was preparing young people for jobs. A lot of times people say the best anti-poverty program is a good paying job. And that's what I was doing to prepare young people. I also taught at a community college, at our local community college, Northampton Community College, to be specific. I was preparing people for jobs once again. And I led another nonprofit organization, the Children's Coalition of the Lehigh Valley, standing up for better policies for children and their families. And what I did at the senator's office, and then at the electric utility, helping seniors, low-income families, and small businesses reduce their energy bills, and then going back to school at a time right now that we're seeing unprecedented demand on the grid. It's important to have an energy expert like me in Congress to navigate this moment. We're seeing data centers that folks are worried. They don't know how they work. They don't know all the intricacies of data centers. They just know that they've seen increases in their bills month after month. And they want someone who's going to figure it out, how to reduce these costs. They're worried about data centers, what that impact is going to have on them. And I am going to be that watchdog. I know how these things work. I connected companies to the grid. I know who they fail when they don't. We need to work on guardrails.
We need you to run for governor of Puerto Rico, Carol. Carol, let me ask you this question, because one of the things that's really exciting about your candidacy is that when you get in there at Congress, because you have this specific expertise in energy, that's really sorely lacking. And we need the some of the best thinking and strategies around this. You win, most likely you'll be in a House majority. We'll see about the Senate, it's probably 50-50. most likely will still be dealing with Trump or, somebody, that represents that movement, depending on his health status and other things. But so for folks that are watching this out, she seems like she knows what she's doing. But how's Carol, as one member of Congress, going to lower my gas prices or my utility bills? Because even before Trump, that was out of control, my electrical. So share with us what your thoughts are in terms of the kind of leadership and what you're going to work on, even as one specific thing, because this energy, Trump has just exacerbated the problem with on the oil and gas side because of this conflict in Iran. It was really a regional war, pretty much a world war at this point. But this is an ongoing, and this has been a problem since COVID. So talk to us about what would be your focus and what's one thing you would be focused on to address our energy affordability issues.
Okay, so you're asking specifically on energy because I have plans. I have a lot of plans for a lot of different areas, but if it's specifically on energy, what we need to do is advance a cleaner, greener energy future. We had a very good policy that set a policy because there were a lot of good ideas in the Inflation Reduction Act. And last year with the Republican bill that was passed, that my congressman was the deciding vote, that cut Medicaid, cut SNAP, did horrendous things, but also did away with the solar tax credits. So families could afford solar on their roof. And that was a way for them to reduce their energy bills and it created good paying jobs, in many instances, good paying union jobs. So that is immediate. That restore those tax credits. It's called the investment tax credit. But I also want to see us unlock the full potential of wind and solar. Doge cut a lot of researchers and engineers at the national labs that were looking at how to improve wind and solar. That's what we need to do. Restore those positions so we can fully unlock the potential that we have with wind and solar. We also need to advance alternatives, such as waste to energy. I am a member of the American Biogas Council. I talk a lot about waste to energy because I always say, don't let waste go to waste. And so we need to talk about having more anaerobic digesters at wastewater treatment plants, at landfills, and at farms.
And we're talking to Carol Obando-Derstine, aka Carol O, who's Democratic candidate, Democratic primary in the 7th Congressional District in Pennsylvania. That's the Lehigh Valley. It's a funky part of the country. Allentown, Bethlehem is a sort of small but urban, but also you're an hour and a half from New York, you're an hour and a half from Philly. So you're sort of in the middle of the action there, but also has kind of like, middle America vibes. It's a very cool area. I'm actually going to be up in your area in a couple weeks, Carol, but we'll talk about that offline. So hopefully we can connect. Nice. It's also a political bellwether in the country. And I've been saying on the Collazo Show for many months is that a lot of what people after the November elections in 2025, which is your native state of Pennsylvania. New Jersey had some very good electoral results and is now having better ones with one of your future colleagues, Lilia Mejia. Looks like she'll be in Congress here very soon with her special general election. When people are watching this, will have just passed. So she'll.
I'm rooting for her.
Oh yeah, and Lily, good people. She's going to beat you being the first Colombiana in Congress by 6 months, but that's okay. You could join it. You could start the caucus. Right. But that there's, before we get to the November elections, everyone's concerned about. We're having all of these exciting primaries around the country, but they're also litmus tests about where the Democratic Party is. And one of the things that's happening, and it's not just in Pennsylvania 7, I see it in New Jersey 7 with our friend Brian Varela. I see it in Colorado 8, Manny Rutinel, and there's a few others around the country where we're having these Democratic, competitive primaries of multiple candidates. You're in a field with several other candidates. And we're sort of having two different fights, for lack of a better term, in Democratic politics right now. We're having the ideological debate, we're having the stylistic debate. So, it's moderates, progressives, but it's also stylistic. and it's clear that people want fighters. People want people that are new, that aren't from the old guard in the political system, not traditional Democrats or traditional Republicans. And then there's also like the diverse question is that, part of the reason that in 2024, Democrats really let us down on a national level is that they did not invest and understand and support and engage the Latino electorate. Right. And, and I've said it on the show, and obviously I have affiliations, and this is strictly just Collazo talking, not my job or any hats other than myself. But I'll share, in 2024, the summer of 2024, I sat down with people on very, very, very high levels of the Democratic Party. And they said, Ralph, this is off the record. What's going on? I said, well, I'll be honest with you. From coast to coast, this isn't just an East Coast thing. This isn't a Pennsylvania thing. This isn't I said, I don't know any Latino Democratic leaders around the country happy with you. I don't know one. Because of this lack of investment, lack of support, lack of,
right.
Fast forward to your race and some of these other races we're talking about. We're sort of repeating, some of us are repeating those mistakes. And so it's great to hear that Susie Wild's with you, but not everybody in the Democratic establishment is with you. And people have picked different sides. So we'll see how your election plays out. And at the end of the day, you're a Democrat, you're going to be a Democrat. And we know what party is ultimately going to be the vehicle for us to progress as a country. But I know that this has been a difficult process. So share your perspective as a Latina that's right on that front lines of trying to build a better Democratic Party through your
candidate. It's important to back me because I have the best shot at building the broadest coalition that taps into the strengths and diversity of our district. I mentioned that our district is 20% Latino. It has the highest percentage of any swing district. And Latinos are the ultimate swing voters. They're not a reliable Democratic vote. Just like you said, you got to invest in them. I'm fully bilingual. I am a fluent Spanish speaker. I, on day one, gave my first fully in Spanish interview, and I haven't stopped ever since. It's a matter of connecting with them. I believe that 50% of the growth in population in Pennsylvania has been attributed to Latinos.
If it wasn't for Pennsylvania Latinos the last 20, 30 years, our population would have declined. I mean,
right.
So the question is, do y'all want to become, an old state with no technology innovations, no small business growth, or do you want to support people like Carol that understand, that bridge all the communities together? Because this isn't about being exclusive. It's about being inclusive to everyone.
Exactly. And who better to confront and fight Trump's ICE, militarized ICE, than an immigrant who went through the immigration process? I am an example of the path to citizenship. I came here at 3. I became a citizen at 19. I know what that's like. I know how to connect with our community here, or immigrant community, not just Latinos. You mentioned it. I have good relationships with the Cameroonians of the Lehigh Valley, and I just had a meet and greet with them.
You got a lot of Syrians up there. I know you have very diverse
communities up there. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'll go a step further. I'm the only woman in the race, and our primary electorate is 60% women.
Look at that.
I understand what it's like to pay more for childcare than my mortgage. I had a high-risk pregnancy. Wow. And I know how dangerous and expensive it is when politicians try to politicize our healthcare. So I get it in that sense. And the other thing that makes me stand out is, frankly, politicians promise, but engineers deliver. I'm the only person who has a STEM background.
My 2 Dominican compadres that are engineers will snap on that one. No, there's no question about it. No question. And I have cousins, female cousins. No,
especially now when we're seeing an unprecedented demand on the grid. Energy and energy costs are a hot topic. The public needs to know that whoever they're going to get behind knows about how to reduce their costs. I actually had Bloomberg News come to my house, and they covered my candidacy one afternoon, and they talked to me about energy policy, and that I can share with you too, Rafael, so you can share with the your listeners, but that's another way in which I stand out, that I have an expertise that I can leverage at this time. When we're seeing an unprecedented demand, we've never seen something like this, and it's going to require folks that understand how these systems work, who they fail when they don't, and who can sit down and work on guardrails for data centers. Because right now we don't have guardrails, and that's why local, state, and federal governments are scrambling to figure this out. Folks, I do not want to see any more data centers in PA7 until we are sure that there are guardrails and that these billionaire companies are not going to shift costs to all of us and small businesses, and that they're showing proof that they're, in addition to not shifting costs to all of us, that they have proof that they're not going to impact us in other negative ways, such as power outages, water outages, or noise disturbances.
Carol, it's interesting because I've seen in my own local community here where I live in South Jersey, is that, this is not a particularly politically dynamic area. I don't see a lot of people like super civically involved, but that's another story. My point is, the data center piece, people are coming out of the woodwork because they don't want these things for all the reasons you just laid out. People are very concerned for good reason. There's one not too far away, about half hour away, that has become such a pest, a noise pollution, and it sucks up energy resources. It's going to make our utilities more expensive. Your neighboring district in the Berks County area, of course, we're dealing with the federal government potentially putting some ICE detention centers there. And it's been so, and I know you see it you're even closer to it than I am, that even more conservative residents of that rural pocket of the state are coming out against it because they're like, hey, yeah, we might be, more conservative about immigration issues, but we don't want people treated like this. We're human beings first. And also, we just know that we don't have the infrastructure to house like this humongous unsanitary prison in our area. So the economic impacts and the climate impacts and obviously the moral dimension of it, people are very concerned about. So we have a lot of consensus around these issues across the political spectrum. And I know, Carol, you're the kind of bridge builder that can bring people together. We're gonna wrap this up. Carol, I'm gonna ask you to give two messages. The first one is for people in your district. If you live in Allentown, you live in Bethlehem, you live in Easton, you live in the 7th Congressional District, and you're a registered Democrat, you have to come out by May 19th, election day May 19th, but of course you can vote early and absentee and all that. Carol, let's give a message to the Democratic voters of Pennsylvania Congressional District 7 on why they need to come out to vote for Carol O.
I would love your support, and you can find out more about my campaign at carol4pa.com. I ask for your support because I understand the struggles that working families face because I've lived them. But I also know the strengths of our community because I've worked alongside them for over 22 years, helping people get ahead. I have real credibility in the nonprofit, public, and private sector. I'm leveraging the experience that I have as an energy engineer right now when we need energy experts in Congress to navigate this moment. I'm the only woman in the race. I'm the only working mom, the only fluent Spanish speaker, the only immigrant. And it's significant, not because I'm asking for a vote just because I'm a woman. It's because I have the ability to tap into a wider audience, a wider percentage of the electorate. I can represent them, and I have an ability to tap into the strengths and diversity of our district like none of the other candidates can.
And I think the last message, before I ask you to share it with our national audience, Carol, I want to say this to our folks, is that I know a lot of people all over the place, and people know people that don't know, but this is what I do for a living all over the country. And I don't say this because Carol's here and she's put me on the spot and she's a nice person. But we would be very well served as a country with Carol Obando-Derstine in Congress. And for lots of reasons, she's laid out her resume, she's laid out her passion, but there's a woman of great ethics. And y súper buena gente ella. And I'm saying this in front of you, it's kind of awkward, but just a wonderful person and a
Thank
woman
you.
of,
Yes.
just someone that's going to bring a lot to the table and credibility. You never have to worry about her embarrassing us. You don't have to worry about scandals.
No,
She's like an
no, I
engineer.
am scandal free.
She's gonna take care of
Yeah,
business and go home with her family on the weekends. That's what she's gonna
yeah,
do.
right,
And
sir. Right.
that's
No
been her.
secrets, no scandals, drama free. Carol.
That's right. That's right. And it's interesting because when you declared, and we had conversations with some other friends, and when we all started making our rounds with checking on people, their interest in it, just everyone got behind you in our network, and they said, no, Carol's. So we, even within our state network, you've already brought a lot of people together to the table, and there's so much you'd be doing. We have over 1.2 million Latinos in the state of Pennsylvania, so you'd be representing a whole lot of us. You'd basically be our state congresswoman in that way. So obviously you'd bring a lot to the table. But Carol, for people that are watching this, and I especially want to shout out and call out my Colombianos, this woman needs financial support. She'd be one of the great advocates for your entire community, great role model for our community. And so we need, whether you live in Fort Myers, Queens, in Houston, Texas, you need to financially support Carol Obando. So your message, Carol, for supporters outside of your district, how they can support your campaign.
Yeah, they can also go to my website, Carol4PA. And yes, we need financial resources to be able to get across the finish line and to be able to build that voter outreach plan that we need to touch every segment of the community. So I would love your support, and let's make history together. We've never had a Latina or Latino elected to Congress from Pennsylvania, and this is our opportunity to make history. Sí se puede.
That's right. Thank you so much, Carol Obando-Derstine. Best of luck. We'll catch up soon. And thank you so much, the Collazo Show family. Continue to subscribe for premiere episodes of the Collazo Show on Substack, on YouTube at the Collazo Show, and the Collazo Show podcast. Anywhere you can listen to us. Thank you, Carol, for being our first Meet the Candidates guest, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rafael, and thank you, everyone.